Level 1. The intake technician. You are handed a headset on your first day and told to sit down. That's the entire orientation. A headset, a chair, a screen that is already on, already running, already displaying a feed of data that means nothing to you yet. The woman who hands you the headset doesn't make eye contact. Not out of rudeness. Out of the specific efficiency of someone who has handed out headsets so many times that the gesture has been fully automated. She is still human. She just doesn't need to be, for this part. Your title is Intake Technician, Grade 1. Your salary is enough to feel like progress after wherever you came from, and not enough to feel like arrival. The office is in a building that looks like 100 other buildings, glass facade, corporate landscaping, a lobby with a security desk and a turnstile that reads your badge and admits you without ceremony. The building's listed tenant is a data services company. This is accurate. It is also, like most accurate things in this environment, strategically incomplete. What you do, at this level, is receive video feeds, audio captures, behavioral timestamping logs, biometric fluctuation data pulled from consumer devices that their owners agreed to share in the 47th page of a terms of service document that no one reads because the document was designed to not be read. You receive all of this and you catalog it, and you push it up the pipeline. You go home, and your phone feels different in your hand. You're not sure why. You put it face down on your nightstand. In the morning, you pick it up again because of course you do. There is no alternative to picking it up. The alternative was foreclosed years ago, before you knew it was being foreclosed, before you knew there was a grid and that you were already inside it. You wanted in. Now you are in. What you don't know yet is that in and inside are different things. You are in the building. You are not yet inside the system. That happens gradually, at a cellular level, starting tonight, starting with the headset still faintly warm in your bag on the train home. Level 2. The feed monitor. 11 months. One promotion. A new badge. This one has your photograph on it, which feels like acknowledgement until you realize that the photograph is primarily useful for facial recognition cross-referencing across the building's internal camera grid. You are a feed monitor now. The distinction from intake technician is not volume. You process roughly the same amount of data. The distinction is resolution. You are no longer cataloging. You are watching. The feeds assigned to your queue are live, real-time behavioral streams from consumer environments, public infrastructure cameras, smart device sensor networks, aggregated location data from the 73 million devices enrolled in the grid's passive collection protocol. 73 million. Your supervisor mentions this number in a Tuesday briefing the way someone might mention the weather. As a condition, not a choice. Your desk is in a room with 22 other monitors, all of them watching different portions of the same enormous visual field. The room is kept at 64 degrees, officially for equipment reasons. Actually because warmth induces drowsiness and the grid requires attention. You wear a thin sweater every day? You keep a space heater under your desk that you're not supposed to have. No one has told you to remove it. This small act of unofficial comfort is the most autonomous decision you make inside this building. The dark cost at this level is one you notice on a Sunday afternoon. You are at a park, an actual park, with grass, with pigeons, with people sitting on benches eating sandwiches, and you realize you are mentally timestamping behaviors. Man, late 30s, stationary for 11 minutes, phone-to-face ratio elevated, gaze pattern consistent with passive consumption. Woman, mid-20s, movement vector northeast, interaction frequency low, social isolation index rising. You are doing your job. In a park. On a Sunday. Without trying. You eat your sandwich. You timestamp yourself eating it. You go home. Level 3. The behavioral scorer. The control grid. Nobody uses the full name in conversation. It's always just the grid, runs on a scoring architecture that you are now, at this level, directly responsible for maintaining. Every subject in the passive collection network has a profile. Every profile has a score. The score is a composite, behavioral consistency index, social graph stability rating, consumption pattern deviation metrics, cross-platform sentiment alignment, and it updates in real time, continuously, without pause, without appeal, without the knowledge of the person whose behavior is generating it. You are a behavioral scorer. Your function is to audit the automated scoring engine, identify drift, correct weighting errors, flag profiles for manual review when the algorithm produces outputs that fall outside expected parameters. You are, in the plain language that no one uses here, the human check on an automated judgment system that is judging human beings on every decision they make, every minute of every day. Your salary is now $71,000. Your office is private, a small room off the main floor, with a window that faces the building's interior atrium. You can see the other floors from here. You can see the intake technicians at their desks, wearing headsets, cataloging feeds. You remember being them. The memory is factually accurate and emotionally empty. You read a profile at 2 a.m. You are regularly in the office at 2 a.m. The grid doesn't sleep, and neither, functionally, do you. And the profile belongs to a woman who lost 3 points on her behavioral consistency index because she changed her grocery shopping pattern. Bought different things than she usually buys. The algorithm read this as a deviation signal. Escalated it. Your job is to determine whether the escalation is valid. You close the flag. Not a deviation. Just a person who bought different groceries. You go back to your queue. There are 47 more. Level 4, the profile architect. You build the people now. Not the actual people, the data people. The composite profiles that exist inside the grid as the operational reality of the human beings who generated them. Your function is to architect the profile structure. What data points are captured, how they're weighted, what combinations trigger what flags, what behavioral fingerprint constitutes a watch list designation versus a baseline subject. The language you use every day, risk stratification, deviation amplitude, behavioral credentialing, social graph toxicity index, longitudinal compliance trending. These terms are not metaphors. They are not abstractions. They correspond to specific calculations that produce specific scores that determine specific outcomes for real people. Outcomes the people themselves are never told about, in processes they've never consented to, using data they handed over to devices they consider personal. You architected, in the last quarter, the weighting system that governs the social influence risk module. Your system, your weights, your logic, embedded in code that runs on 43 servers and applies to the profiles of 19 million people across 4 metropolitan regions. The dark cost has arrived at your body now, not just your mind. You sleep poorly. Not dramatically, you're not having nightmares. You simply wake at 4 a.m. with the grid running in your head, the same way your laptop runs updates in the background, invisible but consuming. Your partner asks if you're okay, and you say yes, and you mean it, which is the most troubling version of that exchange. You are okay. You have normalized everything that should disturb you by processing it as technical problem solving. You have turned ethics into engineering. You did this so gradually that you cannot identify the day it happened. Level 5, the senior grid analyst. You have clearance now that has a color code. You don't say the color aloud. In briefings, it's referred to by a number. The number corresponds to what you're permitted to know about the grid's full operational scope, which systems it interfaces with, which institutional partners have access to the scoring data, what the scored profiles are actually used for downstream, what they're used for, housing applications, employment background checks, insurance rate determination, credit assessment, law enforcement pre-crime prioritization, content recommendation systems, political campaign targeting, public health resource allocation. The grid's behavioral scores have been licensed, integrated, or informally shared with 41 entities across private, public, and governmental sectors. The subjects, the 19 million people, and the others, the ones in the other regions you're now learning about, the number is much larger. They don't know their grid score exists. They don't know their grocery deviation was flagged and closed. They don't know that their social graph toxicity index affected the interest rate on their mortgage application. You know, you are one of perhaps 300 people in the world who know the full scope. This knowledge sits inside you without weight, which is its own kind of weight. You've been in the grid long enough that the information has been metabolized. It doesn't shock you. It organizes your understanding of how the world works, and then your understanding continues. You file the briefing document. You go to lunch. The lunch tastes fine. Level 6. The regional director. Your region is 4 states, 11 million subjects. A team of 41 people who report to a hierarchy that bottoms out at you. You are regional director. Your salary is in a bracket your parents would describe as incomprehensible, and you have stopped trying to describe it to them. You have, more broadly, stopped trying to describe most of your life to people outside the grid. The vocabulary doesn't transfer. The concepts require so much contextual scaffolding that by the time you've built enough of it for the conversation to be possible, you've already spent more effort than the conversation deserved. Your office is large. Corner position. The window looks out at the city, your city, in the operational sense, the region you administer, and you can see, from this window, people on the street below who are in your database. Not specifically, you can't see their faces from here. But statistically, certainly. Every fourth person you can see is a subject whose behavioral profile is maintained by a system you manage. Every fourth person is being scored right now, in real time, by algorithms you oversee, for outcomes they will never trace back to this building or this window or you. What you are losing at this level is not identifiable as a single thing. It is more like a depletion, a slow lowering of the water table of your humanity. You still feel things. You love your children. You have moments of genuine warmth, genuine connection. But they occur inside a life that is so thoroughly structured by your work. Your perception of other people, your analysis of situations, your instinct toward managing outcomes rather than experiencing them, that the moments of genuine feeling feel, sometimes, like artifacts. Evidence that you were once a different kind of person. You don't dwell on this. Dwelling is not operationally useful. You close your office door. You approve the quarter's behavioral architecture update. You send 17 emails in 40 minutes. You are extremely efficient. Level 7. The National Operations Chief. The grid is national now. You understood it was national before this level. You saw the regional architecture, understood that your region was one of 9. But understanding something structurally and administering it are different categories of knowing. You administer it now. You sit in a weekly call with the 8 other regional directors, and you are not one of 9 equals. You are the one they report to. 94 million subjects. The number is on the operational dashboard on your primary screen every morning when you open the session. It updates in real time. People age into the system's capture radius. People move into covered regions. The number goes up, almost always. It has been declining for 4 days running, which is anomalous, and the anomaly investigation is one of 17 active items on your operational queue. The grid's partners have expanded. You spend 3 days a month in Washington in meetings that are logged under consulting agreements that exist inside a legal framework that was, because you read the founding documents, specifically designed to occupy the gap between what surveillance law prohibits and what surveillance law forgot to address. The people who designed this framework were careful, brilliant, in a specific and amoral way. You respect the craftsmanship without endorsing the application, which is a distinction you have maintained for years because it costs you nothing and allows you to retain a sliver of self-concept. The sliver is getting thinner. Level 8, the executive architect. 5 people run the grid at this level. You are one of them. The hierarchy above you is not a person. It is a board, a distributed authority structure, a set of agreements between institutional stakeholders whose names do not appear in any document that would survive a FOIA request. You report to an architecture, not an individual. You are, for practical purposes, at the top. The grid is global now. Not fully. There are regions with insufficient infrastructure, insufficient institutional partnership, insufficient political arrangement. But the coverage map, which you review quarterly, has been expanding at approximately 11% per year for the last 6 years. The math, projected forward, completes itself without requiring anyone to explicitly decide that it should. You make decisions now that are entirely invisible to their consequences. You adjust a weighting parameter and, 3 months later, 17,000 people in 2 states receive credit determinations that are 11 points lower than they would have been under the previous weighting. You will never know which 17,000. They will never know why. The connection between your decision and their reality is too long, too mediated, too technically occluded to be traced. This is not a design flaw. This is the design. You have a vacation scheduled that you have rescheduled 4 times. You will reschedule it again. You know this. The grid doesn't pause. You've built your sense of purpose so completely around the grid's operation that the idea of being away from it for 10 consecutive days produces something that presents as anxiety, but is more precisely described as identity threat. Without the grid running beneath your attention, you don't know what you are. Level 9, the grid sovereign. You are the grid, not the infrastructure. You don't maintain the servers, not the code. You don't write the algorithms. You are the grid in the way that a government is a country, not the land, not the people, but the organizing logic that determines how the land and the people relate to each other. You are the will behind the system. 260 million subjects across 31 countries. Your coverage map is almost complete in the sense that a map is almost complete when the blank spaces are becoming smaller than the labeled ones. The remaining blank spaces are on your quarterly agenda as expansion opportunity assessment. They will not be blank spaces for long. You are 63 years old. Your body is the body of someone who has not made their physical health a priority because their identity has been located, for decades, entirely inside a non-physical architecture. You are present in the world as an administrative function. You eat because the body requires it. You sleep because cognitive performance degrades without it. You maintain a marriage because the social architecture of a stable personal life provides operational cover, and because, underneath everything, in the place where you keep the things you don't analyze, you love your spouse in a way that has survived everything the grid has taken from you. This surprises you sometimes. You let yourself be surprised by it, which is the one place you still permit surprise. You won. Everything that the grid promised when you sat down at that first screen in that 64-degree room, with a headset still warm from its previous user. Access, comprehension, power over the real structure of how human behavior is shaped and managed and monetized. All of it is yours. Has been yours. The winning was so gradual it never felt like victory. It felt like deepening, like entering something that had no far wall. There is no far wall. You've checked. Level 10. The mirror. You go back to the building. Not the current building, the first one. The glass facade, the corporate landscaping, the lobby with the turnstile that reads your badge. Your old badge, which you still have, which you have carried in the same slot in your wallet for 31 years with the specific sentimentality of someone who doesn't permit themselves sentimentality and therefore concentrates what's left of it into small, private objects. The badge still opens the door. This is either an oversight or a courtesy, and you decide, without investigating, that it doesn't matter which. The intake floor looks the same. The temperature is the same. The screens are on, always on, running feeds that have evolved technically but not architecturally. The data is richer now, the resolution higher, the behavioral granularity finer. But the function is the same as it was on your first day. Receive. Catalog. Push up the pipeline. There is someone at the desk where you sat. Young. Headset on. Screen bright. Posture slightly too correct. The posture of someone who is still performing belonging rather than inhabiting it. They are cataloging a behavioral feed with the focused attention of a person who believes that the attention matters, that what they're doing here is significant in a way that justifies the temperature, the anonymized badge, the commute, the quiet sense of participating in something important. They are right. It is significant. It is the most significant machinery operating in the modern world. And this person, on their first week, has found their way into the room where it begins. You recognize this as a genuine achievement, and you feel nothing toward it, which is not the same as feeling nothing. You feel the ghost of what you would have felt 31 years ago, the outline of a warmth. You watch them for a moment. They are looking at a screen full of people who don't know they're being watched, being cataloged by a person who doesn't know what they're building, inside a system that neither of them fully understands, that will use both of them until it doesn't need them, and then continue without them. This is the structure. This is the cycle. The grid does not require loyalty. It requires function. You were functional for 31 years. This person will be functional until they're not. Someone after them will take the headset. The headset will still be warm. You want it in. You were always already in. Everyone is always already in. The grid was not built and then populated. The population was always the grid. The system did not descend on human behavior from outside. It grew from inside it, fed by the same impulse that made you sign the non-disclosure and sit down in the 64-degree room. The desire to see how things actually work. The desire to be on the side that knows. You know everything the grid knows, which is almost everything about almost everyone. And standing here, watching a new recruit catalog a behavioral feed in the building where it began, you understand the final thing. The thing that no briefing, no clearance level, no operational document ever articulated directly. The grid didn't take something from you. You traded it. You handed it over in small installments, level by level, badge by badge. Every morning you swiped through a turnstile that read your face and let you deeper in. You made the trade willingly. You made it in full knowledge. The knowledge arrived slowly, but it arrived, and you continued. Because this is what the grid understood about you before you understood it about yourself. You would always choose knowing over feeling. You would always choose access over innocence. You would always walk through the door that opened. The door always opens. You turn and walk back to the elevator. Behind you, the recruit is still watching the screen, still cataloging, still beginning. The screen watches back. It always does.